G'day, mates. I've been asleep for so long, I've got all this water in me belly. Am I sounding funny to you? Okay. G'day, mates. I've been asleep for so long, I've got all this water in me belly.
Checking, check. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Checking, 1, 2, 3. Checking, 1, 2, 3.
So I will just sort of stand there and be listening to you while you're telling the story, and then I'll do the Kermit part. We're not really doing this, but I invite our children to come forward for our time for all ages. And then do you want the... Yes. Yeah, I can print you out. Oh, it's not in the script, actually. You never put it in the script. Well, I'll have to... It's going to take a minute. All right, I'm going to have to go. So where it goes is during Joy Sorrows and Returns. It'll be the last. Yeah, I'll print it out. You just have to do this thing, and I'll go print it out. No, it's all good. You probably tried texting me. Do you need me? Hi. Yep. Can we go through my line for this too? Too busy in here? Handheld 1, I think. Hand 2, hand 2. Hand 2, hand 2, hand 2. Hand 2. Excuse me, James. Can you unmute Blue? Hand 2, hand. Thank you. All right. Oh, do you need mine?
I'll just borrow from Sandy.
It's page 4. Page 4.
Okay.
You can just grab it if you want. I invite our children to come forward. Just kidding, we're rehearsing for a time for all ages.
Do you want me to just do like that last line? I couldn't hear you over there. So,
Sure.
because we got like.
Where you're going to be, I guess.
Yeah. Whoop.
Are you going to be standing up?
I'll sit, but I'm not gonna do that right now.
Okay.
My knees.
All right. I'll be like listening the whole time.
Yeah. out to the frogs who had stored water in their bellies during the summer.
G'day, mates. I've been asleep for so long, I've got all this water in me belly.
And after the serpent tickled the frogs' stomachs, their laughter released water across the world to form rivers, lakes, and oceans.
All right.
Yeah. But I think, Ben, what I'll do is I'll sit over here. I'll sit like here, and then I can grab this.
Well, should I go like this?
Yeah, that would work. Yeah.
All right. That's a secret. No one knows that Kermit is making an appearance today. None of you saw that. These aren't the droids you're looking for. While I have your attention, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of St. Petersburg. My name is Ben. Now would be a really good time to look at the cards in the front of you in the pew. They are cards for joys, sorrows, and concerns, and they look like this. So if you want, you can fill one out and then bring it forward so that either myself or Sandy, our worship associate, can take them. And we will read them during our time for joys, sorrows, and concerns. Now remember, these aren't for announcements. It's for sharing what's in your heart. Really glad you're here today.
William. William. Good.
I have another card.
I have two.
I'll keep this one then.
This one, where the greetings,
Yep.
we might want to say a conversation later.
Well, they have the conversation right then too.
Well, the whole point was
Okay, so
that people are spending
yeah,
so much time having conversations.
find that though.
Okay.
Can I see your card that you got? I
Okay.
don't like being surprised. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
Haze on the meadow, there's a bright golden haze on the meadow. The breeze as high as an elephant's eye, and it looks like it's climbing up to. Oh, what a beautiful morning! Oh, what a beautiful day! Everybody, I've got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. Thank you, Tim.
Good morning. That is a way to do a prelude. Welcome both in the sanctuary and online to the Unitarian Universalist Church of St. Petersburg's Sunday worship service. Now, we're on the unceded ancestral lands of the Tocobaga and Seminole Native Americans. My name is Ben Atherton Zeman, and I am the minister here. We're joined by John and James today. That's Robert Wallace up there, and Richard Gorton is assisting him doing live streaming. That was Tim Berneman, who you heard on the piano, and our worship associate today is Sandy Weeks. Morning, Sandy.
Thank you, Ben. Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Sandy.
If you believe in Spider Grandmother, I have good news. You may have found your church home. If you do not know Spider Grandmother, she was an important figure in the mythology, oral traditions, and folklore of many of the Native American cultures, including the Hopi, Navajo, Zuni, Lakota, and Choctaw peoples. In one tale, Spider Grandmother is also known as a good spirit. She guides the creatures in the first world and helps them travel to higher worlds, guiding them as they become more human. She leaves the cultures in the fourth or high world to settle permanently. And that's where we are now, the fourth world. As a pagan, I am glad to believe in Spider Grandmother, and this is my church home. I hope it will be yours also.
Thanks, Sandy. Now we have one announcement this week. Is Michael Rowe in the building? Michael? No, because he's out there. Because today tickets go on sale for this year's UU Mingles event. So see Michael in Gilmore Hall, which is that next door, after the service. Or you can look online in our weekly newsletter to buy tickets. The first two events are coming up quickly. Improv night, that sounds fun, at Reverend Ben and Lucinda's. Oh, I guess I'll be there. And garden party at Trish Birch's, both later this month, and tickets for these 7 small gatherings are limited. All proceeds will go to the church's general fund, so buy them now or really right after the worship to attend. Come mingle with other members and friends of our fellowship.
And here is Michael.
There's Michael. Hello. Right there, ticket sales. Thank you, Michael.
As Unitarian Universalists, we are a people of diverse beliefs, but we share a common faith, a faith that every person is worthy of love, that what we do in this world matters, that we are connected to one another and to the earth.
Yes, and so whoever you are and wherever you are on your journey, you are welcome here. And if you are new or relatively new to UU St. Pete, can you give a little wave just so you're like, yeah, I'm kind of newish? Absolutely no one is relatively new or new. Well, yeah, you're relatively new. So, in this part probably there won't be a lot of takers. If any of you have not ever grabbed the microphone and introduced yourself, you could do that now, and I will bring the microphone to you so that those on YouTube Live can hear what you're saying. Now, this is terrifying for some people, but some people don't mind, so you have till the time I get to there to decide.
Well, that just blows my next line. I'm supposed to say thank you for sharing. We're so glad you're here. We are very glad that you're here, and we thank you for silencing your cell phones. And regarding masks, if you'd like one, they are available at either entrance, and they will continue to be for the next time you come. The worship team has received feedback calling for change to the Greet Your Neighbor portion of service. UU St. Pete is an ever-evolving church where your voice and participation matter.
Yeah, Gordy and Allison started this 2 weeks ago, and we really liked it. So let's just take a second now, find someone to look at, and you're going to say, I see you, I'm glad we're here together. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I see you, I'm glad we're here together. And let's have a brief conversation based on our connection. Ask for permission if you're going to hug somebody or shake their hand.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
In other words, you'll be reading Joys and Sorrows, and then I think
Then you're
Ed
gonna
went
come
out
up,
to
yeah,
me.
and I'll finish.
Yeah, because the idea of standing in front of everyone with the mic without the protection of the podium, terrifying. And this is, if nothing else, audience. You're doing great.
Thank you.
Flaming Chalice is a reminder that we choose to focus here together for the time today, and that we believe such time is sacred. As young Ray lights our chalice, I invite you to say our covenant out loud. The words can be found within your programs and online in the text chat. So you can follow along with the two hand movements. It's the hands to the heart and then the hands reaching out. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Please rise in spirit or body as you are able for our first hymn. It's number 148, Let Freedom Span Both East and West.
Let freedom span both east and west, with love both south and north, in universal fellowship throughout the whole wide earth. In beauty, wonder, everywhere, let us commune find. Compassion be the golden cord, close binding humankind. Beyond all barriers of race, of color, caste, or creed, let us make friendship human worth, our common faith indeed. Then east and west will meet and share, and south shall build with north, one human commonwealth of good throughout the whole wide.
You may be seated. I want to invite all of our children to come forward for our time for all ages. And I could use a little more volume in my microphone when you have a second. Come on up. And
Right,
thank you. That's better.
Good morning, my friends. All right, so today's story comes from Australia, specifically the Aboriginal people of Australia. They were the very first people to live in Australia, and they still live there today. This is a story about the creation of the world. And there are many different ways to tell this story, depending on who is telling it and who that person learned it from. And this is true about many creation stories and about many stories that have been around for a long, long time. Today's story goes like this. In the days of dream time, before the earth had awoken, a rainbow snake slumbered below the surface. All the spirits and the other animals lay sleeping beneath the ground. Do you want to help me? Can you get under there? And on this day, the snake awoke. He's under there.
Oh, there's a snake.
The snake.
Rainbow
Can
snake.
Can you show us the snake so everybody can see the rainbow snake?
Nice
Yes,
rainbow
okay.
snake.
I need you to be the snake. Can you do that for me? Okay. And he broke through the surface, traveling all over the earth, leaving winding trails everywhere it went,
Good job.
pushing up the earth to make mountains and carving out valleys and hills. And then the rainbow snake returned to its resting place and called out to the frogs. There's a frog in there. Here, take the snake to the frog. These frogs had stored water in their bellies during their slumber.
G'day, mates. I've been asleep for so long, I've got all this water in me belly.
And after the serpent tickled the frog's stomach, their laughter released water across the world to form rivers and lakes and oceans. And out of the water sprouted much life as the animals awoke one by one. Can y'all help these animals wake up? All these animals awoke. And then before long, humans sprouted from the water too. And the humans always remembered the rainbow snake, and they were grateful for the gift of land and water and creatures. And with that, our story ends, and all of us creatures will be going in a moment to RE, but we have something special to do first.
Thanks, Aaron, and thanks, kids. Before they go, I want to take the opportunity to introduce the new member of our religious education staff. And now she'll be gone for much of the summer, but we get to have her on staff until mid-May. And some of you might remember her from when she was a child herself here at UU St. Pete. So please join me in welcoming Nazira Allen to our staff team. Glad to have you. Glad to have you here. It's good to have you here. Let us now sing the children off to their classrooms. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
In place of the normal reading, I am going to focus on the Article 2 topic of pluralism, which is the focus for this month. In the new Article 2, which will be voted on at General Assembly this year, we have Section C 2.1, Purposes, and Section C 2.2, Values and Covenant. With the value of pluralism, we celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and open and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. In short, we use democratic process throughout everything we do in our beloved community, UU St. Pete.
Thanks, Sandy. Now it's time in the worship service for joys, sorrows, and concerns. And some of you have filled out cards. Here's another one coming up. I think that one will be for Sandy. Here's another one coming up. I think that one's for me. One of them is. One to her, I guess. Yeah. Thank you, Donna. So remember, this isn't a time for announcements, but for sharing what is on your heart. And those of you watching the live stream, haven't forgotten you. Your presence is felt here in the sanctuary. Please submit your joys, sorrows, and concerns into the text chat.
Right now, Earl will place a stone in the water for each one that was submitted this week. The ripples emanating from the stones remind us that the impact of our lives can ripple throughout our community.
So first we have a stone of sorrow from Trish Birch. Trish's granddaughter, Daisy Jane, died yesterday at age 5. Trish is in New York right now with her family, sharing their grief and their precious love for their little girl.
A stone of sorrow from Rachel Williams, that our country is run by lobbyists who can convince the status quo that genocide is okay.
A stone of joy from Emily Chavi, who is here somewhere. There's Emily. Emily says, I have so many joys, including my parents, friends, neighbors, and members of this church being so great and supportive, and a great new apartment.
A stone of joy from John Arterton. 22 years ago, James and I became more than friends.
Oh, happy anniversary. That was a surprise for James. Yeah, the 22 years wasn't the surprise. The card was the surprise. Donna just handed me this card of sorrow. The struggles our daughters Katie and Autumn are going through as they find their way as adults in these difficult times.
A stone of sorrow from Anne and Richard. We are here, but our hearts are on the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Weep for the Baltimore. 6, lament the agony still to visit our neighbors. Hope for a rapid recovery.
Yeah. And from Ann Decker, a stone of concern, a UU church member whose son-in-law is in the ICU in Burlington, Vermont. His name is Tim. Tim or Tom? It's Tom? Okay, his name is Tom. Thanks, Ann. Please send Tom energy.
A stone of joy from Mike Kennedy. My husband, John, has been under the weather, and this is also a stone of concern, for the last couple of weeks. Happy he is doing a little better.
Stone of sorrow from Ellen Scarcella. Wednesday, April 10th is the first anniversary, she says, of the death of my best friend, Lisa Cohen, from a drug overdose. May we keep all those suffering from addiction in our hearts.
A stone of concern from Susan Gore. Alex Small, who is a valued member of the Sunset Supper food providers, she has been ill for some time.
Alex, okay. A stone of joy and sorrow from Ariana. April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month, so a sorrow for all the children in our community and everywhere suffering abuse in silence, unknown to us. A stone of joy for all the relatives, foster parents, and caregivers helping those that are known to us heal.
And I would like to just interject here and say a special thank you to Ariana for that stone of, was it concern?
It was joy and sorrow.
Joy and sorrow, yes. I have a stone of joy from Earl. I have an appointment with my orthopedic surgeon for my hip tomorrow in hope to get a date in the next couple of weeks for a hip replacement.
Yeah, that's it. All right, so let's keep into our, oh, wait, so I thought they were going to have a card, but they didn't. So I have a stone of joy and sorrow as well. So Richard and Bridget and little Ray, who was here before, the sorrow is that this is their last Sunday with us. And they are, the joy part is they are going to have a lovely life up in New Jersey with their families. And a little bit of a joy is also they're going to come back and visit us. They promised. And they brought us this absolutely gorgeous cake. I was like, you brought the cake? We didn't bring you the cake, but you'll see this cake afterwards. It's a real joy to have you among us now and in the future. We will not forget you. We are connected forever. So let's bring to mind, and then we have one more. Our board president, Ellen Hayes, has a joy and a concern.
Hi, it's me again. I have happy news to report. Since my State of the Church address on March 10th, we've raised the amount of pledges for the upcoming fiscal year to $220,000, and that's roughly the same amount as this year. In our congregation, there are 107 pledging units, or households that have chosen to make a financial commitment to the church. Of these 107, 53 pledging units increased their pledge this year. 31 kept their pledge the same as this year, and 15 decreased the pledge amount. 8 of them were new to pledging, new to the church. Resignations have come from 16 of our current pledge units, and there remain 29 households who have not yet responded to outreach efforts. Reverend Ben and I are contacting them, and we remain very hopeful. Speaking of hope, I was hoping to fund our endowment with the $1.2 billion in winnings from this lottery ticket, but it didn't work out. Just think, no more pledge drives ever. My concern, on a more serious note, is that our budget for the upcoming year, as presented to the board on Thursday evening and to be voted on by the congregation at our annual meeting, does not represent growth. Not only is it a survival budget, but once again, we'll need to run a relatively small deficit merely to continue this year's level of services. Those of you looking for new programs, more hours for our office coordinator, further repairs and enhancements to our beautiful building, you will be disappointed. Investments in the future can easily get set aside in such an environment. Let's take the example of our office coordinator. Cheyenne works 20 hours a week currently, and part of her job is to bring in organizations and programs who pay rent to the church. Once we get our spectacular commercial kitchen permitted, the sky's the limit on groups coming in to rent it, along with our lovely sanctuary and social halls. Think if Cheyenne had more than 20 hours a week to not only do the rest of her job, but to bring in more renters. That kind of increase represents an investment in our future. I know that some of you are already pushed to the max financially, but I'd like to leave you with a quick thought experiment. If our current 100 or so pledge units were on average able to increase their pledge for next year by about $350, we would not need to run a deficit next year. Increase that to an average of $700, and we could start funding investments in our future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ellen. Appreciate you. So let's bring to mind and hold close to our hearts all of those whose names we have spoken. Trish Birch, our church mission, I'll say, and specifically our office manager, Cheyenne Hala. All victims and survivors of child abuse, Lisa Cohen and her family, Tom in Burlington, Vermont, Katie and Autumn. And you want to say the names from your side?
Ann and Richard, Mike Kennedy, Susan Gore, and Earl.
So all those known to us and unknown who are facing challenges and health concerns. Please join us for our responsive reading. It's written by John Motter. May our hearts not become calloused by the never-ending incidences of oppression and hatred that so many face each day.
Rather, may we keep our hearts open to the positive efforts of so many people causing good trouble in the world. May we have the strength to demand and gain the right for all people to have a safe place to sleep, health care to keep them strong, and the knowledge that their lives matter.
The struggle is taking longer than it should, but we will get there if we continue to strive for basic human rights. May all of us find a comforting and compassionate presence in the warmth of fellowship and community. And let's do one more stone, Earl, for those joys and sorrows that remain in our hearts. Maybe they are too tender to be spoken out loud right now. And let's take about a minute of silence together. Thank you. We haven't said our mission out loud in a while, so I invite you all to say the first sentence now. As usual, I made it into a game. It has one blank spot. See if you can remember the missing word. Our mission is to be an inclusive, evolving religious community that inspires spiritual and intellectual growth to make our world a better place.
No just one sky above, and friendship has no fences, no walls can stop the love. Welcome, make my home yours. These arms are open, and so are the doors. Faces of the world all around us today. Many voices make for harmony. Let the music play. My life is richer for your friendship today. Let us break bread together while our children play. Welcome. I hope you like it here. I hope that you are safe and your children without fear. But if they come to take you in the dead of the night, I'll be there beside you to stand up for your rights. I will harbor you and fight for you as you would do for me. And when everyone is welcome, we will all be free. And when everyone is welcome, everyone is welcome. And when everyone is welcome, we will all be free.
And everyone is welcome. We will all be free. Who here has met my mother, Johanna Zeman? Yes, many of you. She's watching on YouTube Live now. I'll just note for the record, there were a lot of hands that went up, Mom. You are loved here. And she brought me to the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston all the time when I was a toddler. So those paintings there are like old friends by now. Some of them are actually on loan at the Salvador Dali Museum, so I get to see some of my old friends when I go to the Dali and have my old friends visit. And one painting that remains in Boston is a large one. It's by the French artist Paul Gauguin, and he wrote a big title on it, unusual for the title to be huge and on the piece of art. And it says, D'où venons-nous, que sommes-nous, où allons-nous? And those of you who aren't French, that means, where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? And John and many of you recognize that. Hymn number 1003 in our teal hymnal. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? And now those three questions could be argued are the main questions that bring most folks to church anyway. Now I called Aaron Powers this week to talk about this spectacular Time for All Ages that they brought us. And they said, we are meaning-making people. We are storytelling people. We always want to know where we come from. And according to University of Connecticut professor David Lemming, stories capture the essence of what it means to be human. Via NPR, Lemming said that humans are defined by the fact that they tell stories, and particular myths reflect particular cultures, but they also reflect the human culture. So if you put together all the myths of the world, you'll get a picture of the human mind. We don't have time for all the myths this morning, but let's delve into some of them. And thank you, Sandy, for starting us off with the story of Spider Grandmother. Aaron taught us about the Aboriginal Australian story of the rainbow snake and the frog. Now, in the region of the Yoruba people, that's Nigeria, Togo, and Benin mostly, the supreme being is called Olorun. Now, I'm seeing some smiles for Olorun. Now, Olorun is assisted by a number of heavenly entities. They're called Orishas, and this story in particular was written down by a man named Sankofa. And Sankofa learned it from his father, who learned it from his mother, and so on, back through the Yoruba people and through time. And it's a story called the Golden Chain. Long ago, well before there were people, all life existed in the sky. Olorun lived in the sky, the supreme being, and with Olorun were many Orishas, both male and female. Olorun transcended male and female and was the all-powerful supreme being. Olorun and the Orishas lived around a young baobab tree. Among the baobab tree, the Orishas found everything they needed for their lives. They wore beautiful clothes and gold jewelry. Olorun told them that all the vast sky was theirs to explore, and all the Orishas were so happy and content to stay near that beautiful baobab tree, except one. Obatala was the curious Orisha who wasn't content to live blissfully by the baobab tree, and like all Orishas, he had certain powers, and he wanted to put them to use. So as he pondered what to do, he looked down through the mists below the sky, and he saw something. He realized there was this giant ocean below the mist. And he went to Olorun. He said, "Hey, can I make something solid? It's just water, and that way there could be maybe beings on the solid that we Orishas could help with our powers." And Olorun was touched by Obatala's desire to do something constructive, and so he agreed to send Obatala to the watery world below. So Obatala went to ask Orunmila, the Orisha who knows the future, what he should do to prepare for the mission. Orunmila brought out a sacred tray, sprinkled the powder of baobab roots on it. Orunmila tossed 16 palm kernels onto the tray, studied the marks and tracks they made on the powder, did this 8 times, and each time observed the patterns. Finally, he told Obatala, "Prepare a chain of gold, gather sand, gather palm nuts, gather maize, and also get that sacred egg that we have that contains the personalities of all the Orishas." So Obatala went to his fellow Orishas to ask for their gold. They gave him all the gold they had. The goldsmith melted all the jewelry to make the links of the golden chain. Obatala realized the goldsmith had made all the gold into links. He had the goldsmith melt a few of them back to make a hook for the end of the chain. Obatala gathered all the sand in the sky, put it in an empty snail shell, added baobab powder, put that in his pack along with the palm nuts, the maize, the other seeds that he found around the baobab tree. He wrapped the egg in his shirt close to his chest so that it would be warm during his journey, hooked the chain into the sky, began to climb down the chain for 7 days, went down, finally reaching the end of the chain, and he hung at its end. It didn't quite reach. And he looked around for any clue of what to do next. And finally he heard Orunmila back up saying, "Use the sand. Remember the sand, use the sand." So he took the shell from his pack, poured the sand into the water below. The sand hit the water and spread and solidified to make a vast land. Obatala was still unsure what to do. He was still hanging out up there high above the sand. His heart pounding, and it pounded so much that the egg cracked, and from the egg flew Sankofa, the bird bearing the spirits of all the Orishas. Like a storm, these spirits blew the sand to make dunes and hills and lowlands, giving it character just as the Orishas themselves have character. So finally, Obatala lets go of the chain, dropped to his new land, which he called Ife, meaning the place that divides the waters. He began to explore the island, and as he did so, he scattered the seeds from his pack, and as he walked, the seeds began to grow so that the land turned green in his wake. After walking a long time, Obatala grew thirsty, stopped at a small pond, bent over the water, saw his reflection, and was pleased. So he took some clay, some red clay from the edge of the pond, and began to mold it into a shape he had seen, the shape he had seen in the reflection. Finished it, began another. Before long, he had made many of these little bodies from the dark earth at the pond's side, but they weren't alive. Meanwhile, in the sky, Olorun dispatched Chameleon down the golden chain to check on Obatala's progress. Chameleon came back and reported Obatala's disappointment that they made the figures, but they had no life. So, Olorun gathered gases from the space beyond the sky, sparked the gases into an explosion that he shaped into a fireball, sent the fireball to Ife, where it dried the lands that were wet, baked the clay figures that Obatala had made. The fireball even sent the earth to spinning, as it still does today. Olorun then blew his breath across Ife, and Obatala's figures slowly came to life as the first people of Ife. Now, students of the Hebrew Bible might recognize that phenomenon of shaping human beings out of red clay. This happens in Genesis in the Hebrew Bible. And this particular clay, I learned at my Hebrew Bible class, is fairly common to Central America and North Africa. And in ancient Hebrew, it was called the Adam. That kind of clay is the Adam clay, Adam. Hence the name of the first man created by Yahweh, Adam. And scientists might note that Olorun gathering gases from space and sending a fireball to Earth sounds a lot like a supernova. That phenomenon that creates all the elements in the periodic table with nuclei denser than iron. Now, the Babylonian story of creation you might have heard of. It comes from not a book, it was stone tablets, called the Enuma Elish and the Astrahasis, which they appear to have been written between 1900 and 1500 BCE, before the Common Era, perhaps during the time of the Babylonian king Hammurabi. The tablets of both are broken and incomplete. Trigger warning, though, this isn't as sweet a creation story. It's a little violent. So according to the Enuma Elish, Marduk, our protagonist in this story, is the four-eared, four-eyed giant god of the rains and storms. He creates the world almost accidentally as the result of a battle with his grandmother, Tiamat, the goddess of the salt oceans. So during this battle, Marduk catches Tiamat in his fishing nets, and when she opens her mouth to devour him, he fills it with the evil wind that serves him. Again, a wind. She couldn't close her mouth because of the evil wind. So he shoots an arrow down her throat, which splits her heart and kills her. Marduk then takes his club and splits Tiamat's water-laden body in half, like a clamshell. Half he puts in the sky to make the heavens. Half he makes the land. From her eyes he makes the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, and across this land he makes the grains and herbs, pastures and fields, rains and the seeds, cows and the ewes, forests and the orchards. You see why I saved this story for after the kids were gone. Now, closer to home, some traditional Cherokee stories include references to an eclipse that we're having tomorrow. Now, the Cherokee refer to themselves as Aniyunwiya, which means the real people. They're the indigenous people of what is now called Georgia, northern Georgia, and Alabama, western North Carolina, central and eastern Tennessee, and Kentucky. I was doing research for today's worship service, a lot of research, and I came across 2 videos produced by the Cherokee Nation that are on our Facebook group. And if you're not in our Facebook group, any of you can get into that. And they're really nice and short videos. They tell the story of a giant frog who sometimes comes out and swallows the sun, sometimes comes out and swallows the moon. Now, according to the story, wise Cherokee men can't stand this giant frog, So when they saw it eating the sun or the moon, they would beat drums, shoot at the frog with their guns, rattle turtle shell rattlers, and women would bang on pots and pans together, scaring the frog, who then runs away and the sun shines again. Now, I want to pause for a moment in the storytelling and locate myself as I'm telling you these stories, because I am not Cherokee, I am not Persian, Nigerian. So these stories are not the stories of my ancestors. So I was careful to find authors from those cultures, but still, as an older cis white person, I've been raised to see other cultures as somehow exotic, and I run the risk of what author Edward Said calls Orientalism. Most of these stories have been retold through the lens of colonialism, and often the white people writing down the stories are part of that colonialist system. Paul Gauguin's painting that I mentioned earlier tells stories using indigenous Tahitian women. Gauguin moved to Tahiti when he was 42 and married one of his models named Teha when she was 13. White people have a long history of telling stories from other cultures, and at best we change the stories themselves to suit our needs, telling stories through the lenses of white supremacy or colonialism. But at worst, we use our knowledge of other cultures to inspire fear and obedience. Christopher Columbus's first voyage, of course, was in 1492, but by 1504, the indigenous people of the Caribbean were getting pretty fed up with him and his sailors. Jamaican leaders in particular resisted Columbus's efforts to get them to feed him and his men in 1504. Columbus had brought an almanac with him on the voyage, and he knew there was a lunar eclipse happening on March 1st. So he gathered the Jamaican leaders and threatened them. If they didn't do what he asked, if they didn't feed his sailors, his God will make the moon appear as if inflamed with wrath. And they basically said, yeah, whatever, dude, laughed at him. But when that seemed to indeed occur, they scrambled to bring him all the food he needed. According to Columbus's son Ferdinand, once the moon turned a dark red color, the Jamaicans with great howling and lamentation came running from every direction to the ships, laden with provisions, praying for Columbus to intercede by all means with God on their behalf, that he might not visit his wrath upon them. Columbus went into his cabin, ostensibly to pray. Really, he flipped his hourglass on its end. And shortly before the totality of the eclipse ended, after 48 minutes, he came out, told the frightened indigenous Jamaicans they'll be forgiven. And then when the moon started to reappear, he told them God had pardoned them. Now, as many of you know, this week Marjorie Taylor Greene, you've read about this. She said, God is sending America strong signs to tell us to repent. Have you seen this? Earthquakes and eclipses, she said, and many more things to come. She said, I pray that our country listens. So white nationalists like Taylor Greene believe in a wrathful God, believe in a punishing God. They use fear as a motivator. Their church pews are packed every Sunday. Unitarian Universalists don't insist on any belief system. Many of you here do not believe in a supreme being at all. Historically, Universalists believed in a loving God, believed that everyone goes to heaven. Now, our pews are not as full as theirs, but I will take Unitarian Universalism anytime, because we UUs enjoy learning about spiritual beliefs and practices that are different than our personal beliefs and practices. And we're committed to moving past those colonialist lenses, committed to boosting the signals of indigenous storytellers and authors. At our best, UUs approach other beliefs and practices with humility, with curiosity. We may argue about what color to paint the walls, but we tend to give more grace when we find out someone has a different spiritual belief than ours. Now, our lack of a binding creed and our curiosity has drawn criticism that we don't believe anything or that we believe everything. Many of you have heard my favorite joke: what's the difference between a Jehovah's Witness and a Unitarian Universalist? A Unitarian Universalist will knock on your door and ask you what you believe. Just because we're curious doesn't mean we believe anything and everything. Just because we don't have a creed doesn't mean we believe nothing. We believe many things. We believe we are interconnected. We believe in the democratic process. We believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every being. There's a lot that we believe. Colonialists and white nationalists force obedience through fear. Unitarian Universalists inspire connection through love, through community, through curiosity. Really, none of us know how the world began, but let us celebrate the fact that we're in it now, together. Let us honor the storytellers among us, especially indigenous storytellers, and let's stay curious and keep asking questions. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Amen. Ashe. Blessed be.
In the sanctuary, the offering will now be given and received so that we may take care of our beloved community and our vital mission.
what's given in love is received with great joy, and we say thank you. Please rise as you're willing and able to sing our final hymn. It's number 1058 in the Teal hymnal, Be Ours a Religion.
Well, this hymn is unfamiliar to me and presumably unfamiliar to a lot of us. So we're going to do it 3 times. It's very short, but it's sweet. And I'll sing it the first time through, and then join me on the second and third. Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere, its temple all space, its shrine the good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual works of love. Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere, its temple all space, its shrine the good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual works of love. Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere, its temple all space, its shrine the good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual works of love.
Please remain standing as we say our chalice extinguishing. Bridget and Richard, if you could come forward to extinguish our chalice. The words to use St. Pete's traditional chalice extinguishing are in your order of service and online. They are in the text chat, and there's optional dance move, light of truth, warmth of love, fire of courage, carrying the hearts out in the world. Ready? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of courage. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world. Now we're going to have coffee hour in Gilmore Hall right there as soon as we have our postlude. So if you see someone you don't know, or maybe you talk to them for a second during, you may be seated, sorry. I forgot that part. You may be seated. If you want to chat with somebody a bit more, that's where they're going to be. And look, there's flowers for Richard and for Bridget. It's almost like that was planned.
Thank you. I wish I'd come in there, but
That's all good. Oh, did I step on your line?
I was supposed to be that, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was gathering together all the papers.
Oh, good. You want to say this bit after
Yeah,
we do that?
uh-huh.
Our worship's over.
Wow.
Thank you, Tim.
Now, let's repeat this. Please join us for coffee hour in Gilmore Hall. If you see someone you don't know nearby, invite them to join you. Our worship is over, but our service begins. We hope this time together will help you through your week and will help you remember you are not alone.